So I told you, Ruth is the only Bible book that is the only biblical book that's named after a Gentile, someone who was born born outside of the covenant. Right now, what's interesting about Ruth is that she is also one of the four women who are named specifically in Matthew chapter 1. They give a genealogy of Jesus. And in Matthew chapter 1, they give you the genealogy, and the genealogy, according to Jewish tradition, would only line up the men. It would only tell you the men that were connected to him. But in Jesus' genealogy, it lists I think four women. One is Tamar in Genesis. Tamar was a believer, but Tamar then, because of the unfaithfulness of her father-in-law Judah, and because he had promised her that his next son would be hers because her husband had died, and then he kept having sons and getting them married off to people, and she's sitting there, so she has no inheritance, and so Tamar takes matters in her own hands. And what Tamar does, and you can read the story, because we think the Bible is very, very clean, but it's really, when you read it, you're like, whoa. So what Tamar does, Tamar says, I see him, because the old man would get up every now and then and go to the city. So he took his cloak, and he took his ring, and he took his staff, and he said, I'll be back after a little while. I'm going to the city. And then on his way to the city, he would stop by places of ill repute. That's what I will say. And listen, the man was working out his frustration. The time was hard at home. I don't know what, but literally he goes so he goes to leave, and Tamar says, "Okay, I've been waiting on you. I've been doing right, and you ain't done nothing with me. I'm sitting around here." So Tamar takes her life in her own hands. She goes and she circles around him, and she dresses herself up like a prostitute, and she sets up shop on the side of the road. So Judah sees the open sign and decides that he's going to do business. And Tamar said, well, if we're going to do business, you got to give me something. And he's like, what? And Tamar says, you need to give me your ring and give me your staff. So Tamar must have been bad. Because and they had relations. Tamar then gets pregnant. So then she's walking around Judah's house, and walking around her father's house, and everybody notices that she gained weight, and everybody notices that her body is changing. And so they tell him, they said, listen, that girl, that daughter-in-law of yours, she done went around and got pregnant by somebody. And so he's like, bring her to me. She gonna disgrace our family like that. So he brings Tamar to him, and he's like, how dare you disgrace our family? This is our family name. And he going off on him. And she's sitting there, And he was like, who is the man? Who is the man? She says, I don't know his name, but I can show you his ring and his staff. And so she says, here's his ring and here's his staff. And he said, he looked at her, he said, you are more righteous than I. So Tamar, Rahab Ruth, and I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. There are 4 women that are born and that are listed in the genealogy of Christ. And so now what we see is Naomi, pleasant, Ruth, friendship, but them going through bitterness, and we watch their relationship grow. So the entire book is watching the interplay of their relationship, because Naomi, once again, acts as a spiritual guide or a type of Holy Spirit where she guides Ruth after they get back into the country. She tells her how to operate. She tells her where to thresh. She tells her where to glean. She tells her how to deal with Boaz, and she guides her all the way to her promise place. Does it make sense? Now, and so both of these women get restored. So now when we look at this, Ruth vowed, I told you, Ruth 1:16, she says, entreat me not to leave you or turn back after following you. For wherever you go, I will go. And wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be, and your God. So now that means that she is completely committed to Naomi. Now that means that when you look at commitment, you got to look at it differently now. Because commitment is never convenient. Am I making sense? And commitment is never from a consumer mind state. Am I making sense? A consumer mindset says, what's the best deal for me? What benefits me? Commitment is never from a consumer mind state. Commitment says, listen, whatever happens, you my dude. I'm with you. Wherever you lay down, I'm going to lay down. Wherever you go, I'm going to go. That's commitment. And so what we see now, one of the issues in Ruth is that Ruth is a book about the idea of redemption, because you're going to see redemption all the way. Because remember, Ruth was a Moabitess. So as a Moabitess, Ruth was not supposed to be part of the covenant. So you see a Moabitess, which has no part in the covenant. Listen, she literally gets redeemed. So you see, when you look at Ruth and you look at the idea underlying of redemption, that an unbeliever from the outside who does not deserve anything, who has no lineage or no lock on anything, can through the kingdom of God be redeemed. Does that make sense? And we see also that Ruth had a submissive spirit. That, notice, you see Ruth's responsiveness not just to Boaz, but also to Naomi. Throughout the text, what you're going to see is, listen, a very strong woman. Because when we see submissive, what we see in our mind is passive. But she was a very strong woman. She was a hard worker. Because she would work in the mornings and get there early and stay late. She would do all kinds of things to make sure their household was taken care of. So she wasn't this passive woman. And even to the point where, even how she operated with Boaz, she listened to what Naomi said. That's right. And even at the threshing floor, when we see that space in our mind, because we live in this year, we see Atlanta housewives, and all kinds of stuff. We see Love Island, you see all that stuff, because when you say, when he goes out on the threshing floor and Boaz are down there, you're going to see them talking, and next thing you know, they kissing, and next thing you know, the light's going to go off. And the next morning, well, literally, Naomi said, don't be with him. When you approach him at the threshing floor, if he's laying down, she says, sit at his feet. That's what she said. So you see her being guided. It's not a sensual moment where she is using her feminine wares to get him. Am I making sense? You see this very strong woman. It doesn't mean that she didn't want him. It doesn't mean that she wasn't attracted to him. But she said, I'm going to do, as being submissive, what you told me to do, and even with him, I'm going to do what he tells me to do. Does it make sense? So now we see her submitted, and we see now Ruth being an instrument, because listen, through mercy and submission, she becomes an instrument of the kingdom. Because of God's faithfulness, even though she didn't deserve it, and her submitted spirit, she is put in position now where she becomes the grandmother of David. Am I making sense? The favor of God, the mercy or the hesed, when some Jewish scholars, when they look at the book of Ruth, they say the entire, if you want to sum up the book of Ruth in one word, it's hesed. It literally means mercy. Because you see the Moabites being given mercy, God's unmerited favor. You see Naomi being given mercy. You see Boaz an instrument of mercy because he redeems them. You know, and so now you see this idea of her being an instrument of the kingdom. How do I become an instrument of the kingdom, Dr. Moody? I have to understand that it's not about what I do, but it is about how I respond to the persons of life. I stay submitted. And then we see now them, because they come in the city one way, but through Boaz's action, Boaz now acts as what we call a kinsman redeemer. It's called, in Hebrew, it's Goel, a goal. And it means one who redeems or one who becomes your security. And we see Boaz now acting now, get this, as a type of Christ. How is he a type of Christ? Because he pays the price for someone who needed to be redeemed. Am I making sense? So Boaz now is so just like we see Moses as a type of Christ. Am I making sense? And we see each one of the judges as a type of deliverer or type of Christ. You see Boaz also as a type of Christ. He is the kinsman's redeemer. That he is free, and he is operating within the bounds of the law. And then he says, because you have no ability to pay your own price, and you are outside the kingdom, the only way you can get into the kingdom is through me now paying the price for you to be in the kingdom. And when Boaz decides that he's going to marry her, the man says, well, the price for the land, the price for her is up here. And Boaz says, whatever the price is, I'll pay it. Am I making sense? So now we see this new potential being given to her. Why? Because she is then redeemed. So Ruth submitted, serving in mercy. Naomi being transitioned from bitterness to being fruitful, from outside the covenant to inside the covenant, and Boaz being a redeemer. You see all these themes popping up in the book of Ruth. Clear enough? Clear enough. And so this is why the book is about mercy and redemption. When you look at the book holistically, you're always looking at these terms, mercy and redemption. So the role of the goal, I told you this, kinsman redeemer, a type of Christ. It appears 13 times in Luke. It literally means one who can redeem property. So by law, the property is mine, but the only way I can get you can become a part of it is you got to be married into the family. There was a legal position. There was a legal provision that was put in the Hebrew law because the Hebrew law said this, that we will make sure that the vulnerable are taken care of. So when you look at some of our current policies, they are oftentimes aimed at those who don't deserve and those who don't belong. The theys versus the us's. And those theys, they don't deserve it, they don't get it, and they gonna get your stuff. But the Hebraic law and the way the Torah taught that we deal with foreigners differently. We deal with foreigners by bringing them in. We don't deal with foreigners by pushing them out. Am I making sense? We help those who need to be helped. And so when Ruth and Naomi come back to Bethlehem, remember it was during the time of the harvest, right? So now they had a law because you could only harvest from land you own. But if you didn't own any land, then you had no way to feed yourself. So they had a system by which, now I love this system, by which they say, as the owner, when you hire harvesters, whatever they can get and they can hold, because it's your land, you have the right to keep. But if anything falls or drops, then leave that for the poor. But now here's the thing about the poor now, because there's a part where we're not thinking. The poor then has to work. Am I making sense? Because you got to go out in the field and then pick up what was ever left. You couldn't just sit over there and say, y'all ain't gonna give me nothing. Look at me. Am I making sense? So it's a system of mercy, but also a system of ethics. Because I don't say you don't deserve it, because I've seen you work for it. Am I making sense? You know, and so now during this time, the goal of the kinsman redeemer, there was a couple of rules. You had to be blood relations. So Boaz was blood relations to them, but he was a distant relation. And so now that means that you have to have some kind of relationship with them to be their kinsman redeemer. So this is why Christ had to be both fully God and fully man.
Thank you for worshiping with us today. If you liked this message, you can find the rest at cmllcstore.com. We invite you to join us again for our extraordinary worship services every Sunday at 10:30 a.m., Sundays at 4 p.m., and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Central, where Dr. Moody teaches how to understand the Bible, and you can get all your biblical questions answered. We look forward to connecting with you. We ask that you subscribe to The Rock ATX on YouTube and follow The Rock ATX on Facebook and Instagram to stay connected to all The Rock is doing. You can also get connected on our website at therockatx.org. Again, thank you for worshiping with us, and be blessed.